Hey everyone, it's DeAnna from DeAnna Scraps, and I am here to share a process video for the Crafty Maven Getaway channel. And this is for Mix It Up Monday. I'm going to be doing a card video, and I had this master plan that I was going to actually do the video in real time, but in the end, the video ended up being too long, so I am speeding it up and doing a voiceover. So if it looks like I am talking to you throughout the video, I really was. So, what I'm showing you right now, I'm going to be doing a shaker card, and I'm just kind of showing you different ways that you can use transparencies to create a shaker card. And just showing you different ways. I like to use these rectangles, the stitched rectangles from Lawn Fawn. I like to use that as my window for a lot of my shaker cards. And I was just showing you how it worked really well with some of those overlays. And then I have this piece of transparency that I'm going to use, and I'm going to try to fit it on the, fit the rectangle over the sheet exactly where I would want those circles. I hope that makes sense. So I'm kind of playing around with where I would want the rectangle to go, and that's how I'm going to decide where to cut it. Another thing I wanted to show you was there are lots of different ways that you can do transparencies or find transparencies. Some of the 12 by 12 sheets that you get, if it has too much going on, like if it's too busy, like those sheets that I just showed, I wouldn't personally use those because you won't be able to see the sequence behind there very easily. And I was just kind of showing that on the video. And here I am just using the ATG to stick down the frame. I typically use glue to do the foam or the whatever it is that I choose to lift the window up. But for placing the rectangle on the transparency, I'm just going to use regular ATG. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out of there. I did want to mention the inspiration was at the beginning of the video, the inspiration for this week. I did look at the inspiration quite a bit, and I wanted to do something with the color scheme, but I decided in the end it was really what helped me decide to make a shaker card, just because there were so many random images of things kind of splattered all around the page, and so I decided to go ahead and just do a shaker card. While I'm getting all of that stuck down, I'm going to try to go over some of the pieces of paper and the sizes. Right there, that one that I'm showing you is actually a Scraptastic paper, and that one is sized at about 4 3/4 by 3.5. The card base that I'm using is 4 by 5.5, and the black paper is 5 3 3/4. A lot of it was really just trying to guess good borders, just to have like a thin border around. Showing you right here, I'm using fun foam, and the fun foam that I happened to have had a sticky back, and all I did was cut it just smaller than a 1/4 inch so that it would fit around the frame but not show on the outside or the inside of the card or the inside of the window. As I'm laying down the fun foam, I am making sure that one piece is butted up as close as possible to the next piece that I lay down. With the fun foam, it does stretch a little bit as I lay it down, and I think you'll get that even with your foam mounting tape or anything like that. So I'm just trying to be really careful that, I'm cutting out anything that might show, and then just making sure that I'm putting it as close to the next piece as possible. This fun foam did work pretty well with the adhesive. The only thing is it only has adhesive on one side, which is fine because I like to actually use glue. And I use either glossy accents or the quick dry adhesive to stick the window down on my card. So I'm just showing you, I tried not to have very many gaps in there. You want them to be as small as possible, especially if you're going to use any small beads. That way you don't risk any of the sequins or anything you put inside sliding out. So this is how it's going to look on the card. And I'm just going to get ready to plan my sequence and how I'm going to put it down on the card. And I show a little bit of my sequence organization here. These are the Craftmates Lockables, and I have a couple different versions of them, and I store any of my sequins or real little beads, things like that in here. And I'm showing you this idea that I had a while back where I take a dryer sheet and I cut them up into like little squares or rectangles, and as I'm taking them out of the bag, I kind of stick the dryer sheet inside the bag and move it around a little bit. That way it pours out really easily into the container. And then I actually take that little dryer sheet and I store it in with the sequins, and that really helps to keep the static down. I am using the powder tool on the inside of the shaker card window so that, you know, the sequins and beads don't stick to the inside where I have tape or glue. And the way I do this is I actually, because I'm going to be placing the window right on top of the card, I am putting the sequins or the beads right on top of the card, kind of in the middle. And I'm just adding a few different colors based on, you know, the color scheme of the card. I've got some white and black and gold. I'm adding some red. It's kind of a pinkish red. And then I added those few yellows. You'll see in a minute I changed that out because I don't like that bright yellow. I wanted something that matched a little bit more with that transparency. Here's another one of the Craftmates Lockables. They just have a little smaller container, and then you can actually you can actually pull those pieces out of the bin. Here's where I'm adding a few of those small beads. I really think that using those beads helps the sequins to kind of move around a little bit more freely, just because they are round. You know, sequins still get stuck on top of each other, but if you have some beads in there, it helps. The weight of the beads will help kind of shake them up. So I'm just making sure that the whole pile of sequins and beads are kind of in the middle, but laying a little flat so that I can make sure I can actually put the window on top. And I'm adding the glue, and I'm just making sure there is glue, like a thin line of glue all the way around, touching everything. And where I had a little bit bigger of a gap, I went ahead and just put a little bit of extra glue inside that gap. And then I'm going to place the window on top. And with glue, you can kind of move it around until you have the perfect spot. And then once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and let that dry. For the sentiment, I'm going to be using the Much Appreciated sentiment from the Paper Smooches Many Thanks stamp set. And I am going to be embossing it with Detail White embossing powder. I did forget to use the powder tool to keep the embossing powder from sticking to the back of the black paper, but that ended up being okay because I ended up doing it on the textured side of the paper, and I find that the powder is harder to get off of the textured side. And maybe it's more noticeable with the black, I'm not sure, but I did do a couple of them just so I had an option if one of them didn't work out. And I'm just cutting it down. I want it to fit right about there. And I'm going to just kind of make a little banner at that one side. And I'm going to glue this down with my regular ATG and just kind of eyeball it, put it right about there. And that is the end of the card. So I hope you enjoyed this video on this pretty simple shaker card. There are some still shots at the end, and I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.